I was a person of color, black, particularly a black woman. There's something about putting your body on the line, aligning yourself totally with your deepest values that is very empowering, even though you're having handcuffs and shackles put on you and you've lost all control. You still feel very empowered and joyful, and I would look around and see the other people with me. I could tell they were feeling the same thing. It's stepping up your game, and it feels good. And you know, the scientists who usually are below the radar, they don't want to be, you know, politicized, but they have come out saying you got to cut fossil fuel emissions in half in 10 years involved, and that's what we have. And we need to do. We have to organize and mobilize unprecedented numbers of people, millions of people, to force the government to do what's necessary. And I think we're going to do it. 3.5% of people is all you need to win, and that's 11.5 million people in America. We can do it.
Okay, so congratulations, Jane, on all your good works. I said it off camera, I'm saying it again on camera. I appreciate everything you do. But let's do a little politics, because you say this next election is literally do or die, which I totally agree with you. At one point, you thought you could actually appeal to Trump's vanity, unbelievable, to get him to address the climate crisis. But you didn't get past Ivanka. What happened? Tell.
Well, you know, this kind of man saying you can be the great. If you get enough good, greatest hero the world has ever seen. Women there kneeling in front of me, it'll be huge. If you just do away with fossil fuels and move us into a clean, sustainable energy future, and explain to him how to do it, that he would want to please us women. So I told Ivanka that. Nothing. Didn't go anywhere.
Well, you know, the U.S. is facing so many issues right now. The pandemic, racial injustice, the climate crisis. You write that they're all interconnected and that communities of color are disproportionately affected. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of levels to it. First of all, the fossil fuel industry very deliberately puts its infrastructure, its wells, its fracking pits, it's thinking that these people don't have enough refineries and incinerative power to push back and complain. Traders in communities of color. And as a result, the people who live there are getting sick, especially respiratory problems, which makes them extremely vulnerable to the COVID pandemic. What has brought us to this point in terms of the climate crisis comes from the same mentality that had slavery create the economy in this country, treating people like they weren't human and putting them into bondage. It's the same mentality, and so when we talk about the climate crisis, we're really talking about everything. An extractive, xenophobic, entitled mindset that has to be done away with. Because the crisis that we're facing isn't just a crisis. So we really have a climate crisis. It's an attitude to change, an empathy crisis. It's an equality crisis. A lot of things about this country, starting with fossil fuels and then moving to how do we become a caring country and taking care of ourselves and sharing resources, and, you know, making it so that everybody has a decent life and doesn't have to live in constant anxiety about whether they can afford to have a roof over their head and put food on the table. I mean, this is a moment, and we're so lucky to be alive right now, to fight a fight that can determine whether we go forward as a country that cares about people, or we become like Brazil and Russia, countries that are governed by strong men who don't give a fuzzy rat's ass about people.
There you are. America is like, what, 50 And this concern among Americans 3 days away from electing a president, voters that neither candidate is a president. That's really not a long time to test. That's right. A new CNBC poll says that 55% feel that Donald Trump is mentally unfit for the job, while 52% say that Joe Biden was not mentally up to the task. So, ladies, what can we make of this with a mere 7 weeks to go before Judgment Day? We'll start with Hannah.
And you know, Joy, it's actually less than 7 weeks in some places, because in places like Florida, absentee ballots go out in a couple of weeks, and people are going to start voting. Look, I think it's very concerning, but I don't understand how anybody can think there's an equivalence between Joe Biden's mental fitness. The man is coherent. He's not sending us out to inject bleach into ourselves. He is not holding multi-thousand people rallies packed like sardines in the middle of Miami yesterday, the pandemic. I was with and the care they are taking, Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff, and the COVID measures that campaign is taking. So you won't see the same rallies you're seeing from Trump. What you're seeing are people who are taking a pandemic that has cost 190,000 lives seriously, respectfully, and civilly. Unlike the guy who I do think is unfit in every single way. Mentally, character, physically, intellectually, you name it.
Morally, ethically. How much time have we got left? But in fact, I see a lot of footage with him dragging his foot, and his arms are going crazy. I don't know. People are not watching the same footage I'm watching. What do you make of the poll, though, Megan? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Joy. I mean, I think there's a huge enthusiasm gap right now that should be concerning to all of us right now. And I'm actually worried about it suppressing voter turnout. You're right about his health. Both of these men are right. There are videos and clips going around are almost octogenarians. And President Trump, like you said, the conspiracy theories, when you're in your almost 80s and you're running for president, it's going to take a different toll than when you're President Obama and you're in your 40s. I actually want to play a clip from Fox News last night that's getting a lot of attention with a surrogate from the Biden campaign.
Has Joe Biden ever used a teleprompter during local interviews or to answer Q&A with supporters?
Brett, we are not going to engage. This is straight from the Trump campaign.
But yeah, they're using it.
And what it does, Brett, is it's trying to distract the American people.
I understand, but you can't answer the question.
Brett, I am not going to allow the Trump campaign to funnel their questions through Fox News and get me to respond to that.
So this is his surrogate just not answering if he's not using a teleprompter for interviews, which this normally wouldn't be a big issue, I don't think, because people use notes and prompters for different things. But when the narrative that the Trump campaign has been putting out is that Joe Biden can't get out of his basement, and then when he does, roost. And if you are, he's only doing softball interviews with djlowe, who is a nice man by any vectors, this is the chickens coming home to everybody's standard. You just can't say, hey, he was using notes, it's no big deal, pivot to what Anna just said about President Trump. You got to get off this narrative. And I'm personally worried that both of these candidates haven't had enough exercises, metaphorically speaking, to get ready for these debates. And if Joe Biden looks even a little bit unprepared, it's because they've kept him too insulated. And I think that's the concern, and that's maybe why this poll is growing.
Okay. All right. And so, Sonny, so are you worried about the poll?
Well, you know, I'm not a physician, and so I think it's inappropriate to opine about mental fitness. It almost feels crass to me, but I think you can opine about character fitness, and I think you can opine about leadership fitness. And let's face it, I mean, I think his record, Trump's record of, I mean, there are over 190 failures in leadership as president. 1,000 Americans that are shows that he's unfit, dead due to his ineptness in handling the coronavirus. He lied to the American people. He calls military men and women losers. He calls, you know, African Americans and all sorts of names, and Latinos, all sorts of names. And I think his own cabinet members call him unfit. Mattis said to DNI Director Coates, Trump's dangerous, he's unfit. The president has no moral compass. Coates even said to him, a lie is not a lie, it's just what he thinks. He doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie. These are people that know him, that served under him. So the fact that others don't seem to think that he's supporting this president.
Sonny's
fit is bizarre
they're talking about
to me. How could people still
physically unfit? We'll have to see the polls that tell you whether he's morally unfit. Sarah, before we go, tell us what you think.
Well, I think that what Megan alluded to about the lack of enthusiasm for either candidate concerns me purely because we need voter turnout for any election to work, to be successful, for change. But I think what Anna said was also important. I think it's a false equivalent to compare these two men and what voters are saying is mentally unfit. I think when people talk about Joe Biden, they're speaking, and I love Joe Biden. I've met him on a few occasions. I think what they mean is if you compare public appearances from even a few years ago, that the way he presents himself has changed slightly. Now, with President Trump, I think you're talking about his actual default settings, like the person he inherently is, and one scares me more than the other. I think the way that's necessary for any president, the way President Trump operates, it to be successful. Surrounding yourselves by the doesn't lend itself to the collaboration best of every field, leaning on those generals. And as we've seen with President Trump, there's been high turnover. People have left. Those very people that were in those inner circles are the ones saying he's mentally unfit. So between the two, I see the division, but I don't think you can compare the reasons behind that.
Okay. Well, I've met both of them, and I haven't seen Donald in years, it seems. But when I see him on television, he seems to be lumbering along. And then I see footage of Biden riding a bike and running. And I mean, I don't know what television station these people are watching. It must be that the Fox viewers must be seeing it different from everybody else.
The new special Shark Attack, the Paige Winter story with Robin Roberts, takes you on an inspiring year-long journey of a 17-year-old girl trying to emotionally and physically get her life back together. And executive producer Robin Roberts, after being attacked by a shark. We want to find out all about her. And we're joined now by host. This is an amazing story that you did with her because it's just stunning. Go ahead, Joy.
It is.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second, but let's start with a little politics, okay? Because in August,
shocking. You want to talk
Muir
politics?
landed
This is shocking.
I know. Listen, it's everywhere. I'm up at night thinking about it. You and David Muir landed the first joint interview with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for ABC News. So bravo to you. Tell me, what was the takeaway from the conversation, in your opinion?
Well, as you all started off saying, it's 54 days until the election, and David Muir and I traveled to Delaware for the interview, and it was wonderful working with David on this. And, you know, many people were asking, were anything off the, because a lot of people said off the table. Nothing was off the table. When Senator Harris was selected as a running mate, we could ask them anything, including the debates. We're talking about the debates. During our interview, it became very clear that they are on the same page about what they feel are the important issues facing this country. And at the end of the day, they want the same things, but the journey getting there is perhaps different. But what they want is the same, and so they're in lockstep in that regard.
Well, Robin, I'm so excited about this. I love anything shark related. You have a new primetime special, Shark Attack, the Paige Winter story with Robin Roberts. And you first interviewed Paige last year, just a few weeks after she had been attacked by a shark while swimming at the beach, resulting in the loss of, this is awful, her left leg and 2 of her fingers. What drew you to this story so early on?
Well, Megan, you know, oftentimes there's a story like this, and the press journalists who we want to talk sat down with her in the hospital. She had just to the principals, the people involved, had her leg amputated. And so, as you said, I sat, and I was just so taken by her spirit and the doctors and nurses talking about her attitude and how she said to me, hey, some of the pieces are missing, but I'm still the same. And oftentimes when we do a story, we're like, okay, bye, but we wanted to know what happens after that. And so we followed her for the year, and it was so gracious of her to allow us to have cameras so we could document what it's like after something like that happens to you.
And Paige recounts the early moments of the attack in vivid detail, and we have a clip. Take a look.
I remember feeling the teeth like piercing like through my hand, and I was like, off. I was like thinking of like a bear trap, and the bear trap was like the shark's teeth in my mind. I'm just gonna try to like put my hands in there and like see what happens. And it like came off for a second. It was like, what are you doing? Like it spit my hands out. I was like, ew, gross. And then like put my leg back. I'm like sitting there like in its mouth. Like this is what I want. Like holding my breath, shutting my eyes. I'm underwater. I can't get up. And I got up for a second. And I heard screaming, like gasped, and got some seawater all up in there. And I remember just like, hold your breath, Paige, just to hold it.
And Robin, you faced some incredibly challenging times yourself. When you look at Paige and what she's gone through, how key has her attitude and outlook been in her recovery?
Well, everybody's got something, Sarah. You know, you've heard me say that time and time again, and her attitude is everything in the recovery. When she said to me that when this was happening to her, when she was in the throes of the shark attack, that her life wasn't passing before her eyes, her future was. And to have that, I mean, this is a teenager, and she just realized that no, she could not wait until she could walk through. No, this is not going to prevent me. The door for high school. At that moment, she was saying high school. She was about to start her senior year, and she was committed to living her life.
It was just so amazing. I got the chance, Robin, to watch the screener. It's so well done, and as the parent of two teenagers, she is remarkable. And I'd like to talk to you about Paige's dad, Charlie, whom you also interview, and he rushed into the water that day and saved her life. What was it like to hear him talk about that moment? Because that just struck me when I heard him.
I bet as a parent, I bet it did, Sonny. And you're going to hear details in the special tonight that have never been revealed before about how he was able to fend off the shark and just really get into details about the attack. You know, he is a firefighter and a paramedic. And he went after that shark. Sure, and many people thought, oh, in fact, and he was so exhausted. He was a firefighter, paramedic. He was able to, when he got his daughter back, to tend to his daughter. And you all who are parents can respect this. He said, no, he was there as a father. You know, others gratefully were there and could help. But he said he didn't know how many moments he might have left with his daughter. And so he wanted to be there to comfort her. But the detail that they willingly go into, and more importantly, the journey from this past year. We had cameras with them for more than a year, and to see where she is now and how this year has unfolded for her.
Well, in the special, we see Paige in the running for homecoming queen at the high school, and this was only months after the attack, which is incredible. What does she want people to learn from her story?
She wants people to learn that probably before the attack, she would not have run for homecoming queen. That it brought something perhaps didn't have before. And what out in her, a boldness. What she wants to show and all of that, of us who consider ourselves thrivers after we've gone through our something, this too shall pass. And she is a shining example of that and remaining optimistic, and so looking forward to her future. And wait till you hear the special what she plans to do in the future.
I love this. As I said, I love this special, Robin. I'm so proud to see it. We want to thank Robin Roberts. I believe the special is on this evening. My stuff just went down. So we'll make sure that it comes up. There it is. It airs tonight at 10 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. And you can, of course, see Robin every weekday on Good Morning America.
Well, tell us how she's helping to keep the Latina community informed and engaged is the talented and super patriotic Eva Longoria. Sarah has a question.
Oh, you exude such girl power.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Eva. Power. That's very on brand for us. We always love having you here on the show. A panel of women, and you do so much work with your activism, your acting and directing, and a lot of it is women-focused. Why is that so important to you?
Look, women are the CEOs of the household. We make the financial decisions. We make the educational decisions. We make the healthcare decisions. And, you know, during this year and this pandemic, we've just seen women bear the brunt of the responsibilities, whether it's for their business, for their job, for their children, homeschooling. I just thank God Santi's not at the age of homeschooling, because I can't imagine what parents and mothers are going through right now. But, you know, we should focus on women. Women make the world go round. Women are the economic engine of this particular country and of the world. And, you know, we're not a special interest group. We are half the population of the globe.
A little bit about the DNC.
Globe.
You've been at the DNC. So, Eva, let's talk on multiple occasions. And I guess some Republicans forgot to Google you. We saw during the convention that Marco Rubio came after you. He tweeted, "Brilliant move. No one is more in touch with Americans, with the challenges and obstacles by everyday Americans than actors and celebrities," which I thought was really funny, given that their nominee is an actor and celebrity and show host. So they must have forgotten who they nominated. And then we saw Ronna McDaniel Romney, the name she's taken away, come at you during the opening of the RNC. So come on, sister. Respond to that. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, people thought I got Marco Rubio trending. Ana Navarro got Marco Rubio trending. Because the fierce backwardy, I showed up as a 9th generation clash he got, because I didn't show up American. I showed up as the to the DNC as a celebrity, daughter of a veteran. I showed up as the daughter of a teacher. I showed up as a woman who took student loans, had student debt for 10 years, a woman who had 6 jobs during college just to, you know, put food on my table. And so I definitely understand the struggles and how to achieve the American dream. And I'm definitely now, today, in a place of privilege, but that wasn't always the case for me.
Eva, the other day I referenced a poll from NBC that shows Biden severely underperforming with Florida Latinos. In 2016, that demographic preferred Hillary Clinton over Trump by a huge margin. It's almost 20 points. But as of the latest Gallup polling, Trump holds a narrow lead over Biden. The RNC has made a real effort, especially in Florida, to engage Latino voters, and it seems to be working. I'm actually very surprised by this. Are you?
Yeah, you know, you were so
concerned that Democrats are forgetting.
So right. I was listening to Hot Topics when you were talking
about this key demographic.